Alright, welcome back to part 7 of this spider tutorial. So we're going to animate this guy now, and we're going to try and animate 3 different states, and we're going to then code that into Unity. So if you we're in Blender right now, we're just going to go along to this animation tab in here, and this gives us a nice setup for all of the windows and the layouts to try and animate this thing. So the way we're going to do it is, the easiest way that I know is we're going to create the animation clips inside the same timeline. So we're not going to worry about the action editor. We're just going to make them and just take a note of where they sit on the frames, and then we can split them up when we get them into Unity. So let's start with the simplest one, with the idle animation. So the way that this works is you're just going to leave this at frame 1, the timeline at the bottom on frame 1. And we're going to just select all these bones and copy them. When you're working with animations, you can copy with Control-C. You can also do this in pose, and the cool thing about it is I'll show you later on, we can actually, if you set this up right, you can pose the flipped version, and that saves us a lot of time in posing all the bones. So we can copy the pose right now, and to insert the bones in that position, we need to just tap I to insert. So if we tap I, and then I usually just choose whole character. There's a lot of options in here for selected bones, for example, but most of the time, if you're not too picky, you can get away with just a simple whole character. So if we click on that, you'll see that all the bones have now got a keyframe at that particular frame. And importantly, what you need to do is to make sure that the last frame is exactly the same as the first frame. So I'm going to go forward to 120, which is a nice long animation, and I'm going to go to 121 so that I'm one frame further on, and then paste that in again, so insert those keyframes again. So if I tap I again and say whole character, what that does is there's an animation now that plays absolutely nothing from frame 0 all the way to frame 121. To test the animation, you can click down the bottom right hand side where it says start and end, and you can change it to the actual animation clip that we're doing right now. So mine starts at 1, but it ends at 121, so I can actually change it to 120, so it's one frame less. Because the frames are exactly the same, you don't want a little bit of a pause. If you have a small pause, it means it's playing the same frame twice. So if I've got this frame here and this frame here and it's exactly the same, I don't want to have it play it again, so otherwise you would see a sort of brief pause. So I've put it at 121, and then we'll play it. So if you see that absolutely nothing's happening, but it's playing the animation all the way through in a loop. So what we can do for the middle one, so that's frame 60, is we can pose this thing and then insert the keyframe again. So all I'm going to do is, I know that these, if I press 1 on the number pad, I know all of these. I'll put my screencast keys on. I know all of these are sort of on the ground, or as close to the ground as I could get them. So what I'm going to do is take the root bone, tap G and tap Z, so I'm moving only on the Z, and move it down so it's just off the ground. And then what I can do is just select all of these bones and drag them back up again. So if I just unclick, I'm going to press B, and I'm going to draw a box around the feet, and that should have selected all of the feet bones. And I'm going to tap G, and I'm going to tap Z, and I'm going to move them up so that they're all where they started. So what it should look like is that the body moves down and the feet stay where they are. So if I now insert and choose whole character, then there will be a frame at the beginning and a frame at the end that's the same, and the one in the middle will be the slightly changed one. So if you play this animation now, you can see that it looks like this real slow up and down movement that the spider's doing. It's probably a bit too much. Usually an idle pose should be really subtle, but we'll leave it as it is. You can make any animation that you want. But you notice that we just keep the start and end frames the same, and we can do something in the middle, and that's the basics of animation. Moving on to the next part, what I'm going to do is just move it forward a few frames. So I'm going to say 160 is where I'm going to start. I'm actually going to start at 160, and we'll do the walk cycle. Alright, so the walk cycle, we're going to start at 160. The way that I got the walk cycle was I just looked on spider walk cycle on Google, and I found this one which kind of shows you this basic concept that the start frame and the end frame are exactly the same. And the middle frame, this one here, is a mirror image of the start frame, and this works with walk cycles as well. So you notice that this one and this one are complete mirror images of each other, and that's because it's halfway through, and this one and this one are exactly the same as each other, or at least the next frame on would be. So I'm going to show you how that works with our one. It gives a reasonable reaction. So what we're going to do is just get it into position, and what I'm going to do is just choose the individual feet for now and just put them where I want them. So I'm going to put this one forward to just short of this this line, and this one, the bottom leg, should be back, and we're going to put it in line with there. So I'm keeping them sort of opposite to each other, and this one I'm going to bring forward. I'm going to put it to here, and this one I'm going to put back so it's just in line with there. So actually, tell a lie, I'm going to put this one just to here. So I'm keeping them sort of in the grid here. You don't have to, depends on where yours are, but it gives me a chance to kind of measure the distance that the thing's moving, and it may take me more than one go to get this right. So just put this here, put this here. Alright, so tapping A on the keyboard will give me all of the bones, and Control C will copy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert this keyframe and choose whole character. Now I'm going to go maybe to frame 200. That's 40 frames. I can always adjust this later. I do want it to be a lot shorter, but I don't want to run out of room, so maybe actually I'll make it 20, so it's 180. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the same frame at the end, so I'll say whole character again, so I've got the start and end. Now the middle one, that's the 170, we're going to paste the same pose. So this was copied, Control C to copy, and what we're going to do is paste the paste flipped, and you'll see that it's the exact opposite of what it was before, and I need to remember that I've done that. I insert those keyframes. So what we've got is the beginning of the walk cycle. If I was to play 160 to 180, so I'm going to type those in, 160 to 180, 180, and then play it just to see what it looks like. You'll see that we've kind of got the beginning of the walk cycle. Now the thing about the spider walk cycle is that these ones are okay, but these middle legs need to move as well, so they're currently not moving, so we've got to better move those too. So I'm going to go back to only change these keyframes here. So what I want is when these ones are forward, or this foot is forward, yeah, I want these ones to be back, I believe, if I look at my little picture again. So we've got the long leg forward and the other ones are back, so it's the ones that are back are on the opposite side, so these ones should be back. So what I'm going to do is just, I'm only going to move them along the y-axis, so I'm press G and press Y. I'm just going to go back till they're about one block further back, and that means that the other side, these ones should be forward, so I'm going to hold, click on that one and shift click that one, and I'm going to grab along the Y and just move them forward. Going to move them forward? Oh, leave them where they are because these ones are back. Maybe move this one back one. Okay, and this one, move it forward to here, and that one to there. So there's one unit between them. And I think what I'm going to do is move this one here, and this one here. So maybe move this. It's got a bit wonky because it's a bit stretched out. So grab on the Y, move it there. Okay, if that shouldn't really happen, but it's to do with the bone. So it got a bit, when it got a bit funky there, I had just checked. If you jump into edit mode, select all the bones along here, and then this bone roll. If you go into the armature, you'll see that there is bone roll, and then you can clear the roll, and that should sort out any of that wonkiness that we got. Then you go back into pose mode to continue, so we should have gone back where it was. You see how it's kind of fixed the roll, it's not kind of bending the wrong way now. So I wanted these to be 1 unit apart. So this one, if I go to this first one here, I want this one forward. So these ones should be back. Grab Y, move it back to here, and that one is 1 unit apart. And then this one, we want to grab Y and move it so it's 1 unit away from this one, so it's forward. So I'm fairly happy with that. So I'm going to press A for all, copy the pose, and I'm going to insert that keyframe. So because I want the end one to be the same, we're going to have to Control V to paste. We're going to have to say I, whole character, and because we want this one to be the exact opposite, we're going to pose flipped, press I, and whole character. So what we've got there is we should have these feet moving forward and back as we go through the animation. So if I hit play, you'll see that they're moving forward and back as well. They're kind of working the opposite to these ones, and all of the feet are moving about 1 square backwards. The back legs are a bit weird there, but we're not really going to see them too much. The whole thing kind of looks okay. Now the last little issue that we're going to do, and this is what happens when we do the walk cycle for a human as well, is that they're not lifting up as they move, and they should. So when the foot's coming forward, or a foot is coming forward, it should actually lift up rather than just slide across the ground. But when it's moving back, it should move across the ground. So what we're going to do is just look as I cycle backwards and forward through these. We're just having a good look to see which ones it is that we have to lift. And what we're going to do is we're going to put these intermediate frames with the leg lifted, so it will naturally lift it up as it's coming forward. So if I look on the side nearest to the camera right now, as I scrub forward, we see that it's the 2 middle legs that are up, or that should be lifted, and then when we get to here, it's the front and the back leg that should be lifted. So I'm assuming it's the opposite on the other side, and again, paste X flipped, that works really well. So I'm going to go to the midpoint, and it's the middle legs that we need to lift. So I'm going to select them both. I'm going to tap G, and then I'm going to say Z, and I'm just going to move them up around about 0.3 meters. So you can tell up the top left hand side how much you've moved them. So now that that's done, I'm going to press A for all and copy, but we need the opposite of that would have been these ones. So the 2 outer legs, and at this point in time, so I'm going to again G, Z, and I'm going to move them up about 0.3 meters. If you look up the top left of the screen, you'll see how far you've moved them. A for all and copy, and then I'm going to insert that as a keyframe. So the great news is they do lift as they're coming forward, and then they go back down to where they were in the first one. So you see that it worked quite well as we do that. And the great news is we don't need to do it again because we've already done it. And we've copied the pose from here, so we can paste the X-flipped pose to here. So I'm going to do pose, paste pose flipped, and you see that the correct legs lift. And then I'm going to I for insert whole character. So I've only posed it actually twice. So we posed it at the start, and then we copy that to the end, and then we paste the flipped pose to the middle, and then we pose it again at this intermediate one, and then we paste the X flip to that one. And you could do more intermediates with more copying and pasting, but you'll see that for a basic animation this doesn't look too bad. So you notice it's got that brief little pause as it gets back to the start again, and that's because we want the end frame to be one less than the actual number that we've put in. The pace of it as well, if we want to scale it, if you want it to run a bit faster, we can actually scale selected keyframes just like you would anything in the 3D view as well. So if I stop the animation, put it to this frame, I'm going to tap click anywhere to unselect, and then I'm just going to select these frames here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale them by half. So you can do B. If you tap B, you can draw a box, and just draw a box around these. It should have selected all of it, you'll see, and what we're going to do is we're going to scale it by a half. So we're going to tap in S and say 0.5, and that will scale it by a half. So it'll run twice as fast. So the final frame we see here is 170. So I'm going to say 169, and that should play my animation at twice the speed. Now it's not bad, the animation's alright, the legs move nicely, and if I had time I would do a little bit more movement of the body as well as it goes, so it could turn a little bit or lift up and down as it moves, but for now it's not bad. And the last animation we're going to do, give ourselves some room, so maybe go up to frame 180, and I'm going to do the attack animation. I could leave this one up to you, and I might we know the basics. We can insert keyframes with I, we can copy and paste keyframes, and you can play them by setting the numbers to the ones that you want. So I might just do this one in high speed, and you guys can do any kind of attack animation that you want.